Hey, it's Jody. I've had a few people asking how my recovery is going and what things look like, so I just thought I would show you. So it is Friday morning, 3 days post-op from my surgery on Tuesday. Recap, surgery Tuesday was to fix the palpebral spring in my eyelid, which helps open and close my eye after a brain tumor paralyzed my face. And I've had this procedure done multiple times because when you have facial paralysis, you don't have the muscle tone to hold anything in place. And the reality is the spring is made out of metal. And anytime you use anything metal, you think about how many times a day you blink when it's working, which is up to 14,000 times. And you think about that movement up and down, up and down, up and down, it is going to break over time. So it did break a few months ago, and have had to have a replacement and go in and have a fix for my eye. So we are now 3 days out from surgery. Sometimes 3 days out is actually the hardest because you have all of the anesthesia finally out of your body and you're feeling pretty exhausted. I'm doing better today than I anticipated. I would say the day after surgery and yesterday were a little bit tougher. Plus, I had to get on a plane yesterday and fly home from California, so that made it even harder. As you can see, my eye is swollen and bruised. I look a little bit like I lost a fight, but overall, I think it's going well. I do have some closure of my eye, even though it's swollen, so that is good. That's a positive indication. And the bruising will set in probably a little bit more. I'll get a little bit more black and blue over the next couple of days, but overall, I feel like things are going well. I'm trying to rest as much as possible. So I'm still in my comfies, my chosen hoodie. I'm in my bedroom, just not too far from where I got out of bed today, but just trying to hang tight and rest up as much as possible because that's important at this stage. And for those who wanted to understand a little bit more about what the spring does, so if you picture the way that a normal eye works, opening and closing, when you have facial paralysis, at least the kind that I've had, my eye would just stay wide open all of the time. And we tried a variety of different options for that. I had what was called a gold weight implanted in my eyelid. The problem with the gold weight is it works by gravity alone, which means at best it can only work 50% of the time. When you are sitting up in the right position, gravity can help pull that weight down and close your eye. It never had full closure, and it doesn't work at all if you are not in a sitting up position. So it was just not a good solution. So my doctors in Salt Lake recommended that I go to Dr. Robert Levine in Southern California, and that he does this procedure that I have now, which is called a palpebral spring. A spring looks just like a safety pin. If you think of the way that a safety pin opens and closes, and over here in the corner there's a little coil, and then on these ends normally there is a hook to hold the safety pin closed. But if you think of how that looks, only minus the hook on the end, that is what a spring is. It is implanted in the top part of it is implanted and sits right on the bone up there. And then the coil of the device sits right in the corner of the eyelid, and the bottom part of the spring is right there where the stitches are now. And it sits across the muscle of the eye so that when the muscle that opens the eye relaxes, the spring can kick in and then help it close. And my last spring lasted 9 years, which is amazing when you think about the metal being only the size of a safety pin or a paper clip, something like that. To be able to use it over and over and over again for that long was truly miraculous. And I was very, very fortunate it lasted so long and I did so well. But it did get to the point where it broke, and I could tell it broke because it was kind of free floating in my eye and was no longer doing its job. My eye could still close a little bit, but it couldn't open, and the spring was kind of floating in there. So that was the cause for the surgery. And the surgery this time was not nearly as brutal as it has been in the past. Sometimes you have to go in and be awake for hours during the surgery while they adjust it and shape it to the exact curvature of your eyeball so that everything works well. But I had had this surgery done in June, just a few months prior, and there was too much scar tissue built up. So once they sealed up the eye, the spring was getting caught on the scar tissue and it would not close. And so they went back in this time, they scraped out all of the scar tissue, and they made some adjustments so that it will have better closure. They also took some fat from my stomach, and then they implanted it into the corners of my eye in order to have better closure here, because the spring does not reach all the way over to the inside corner. So they put some fat here so that'll help keep it closed. And they also put some fat over here and built up around it. And that will make it so that the gunk doesn't get caught in that little corner of my eye, because the drain doesn't work in my eye either. I don't produce tears, and I don't, and the drain is also paralyzed, which means when something does get in my eye, whether that's the accumulation of gels and drops or dirt and debris, they can't go anywhere. They just accumulate and sit on top of my eye. And that is very painful. It's irritating. It means it's constantly just covered in debris. It's like a windshield that went through a mud storm and just can't ever get washed off. So I can't really use that eye under those conditions. So they put some fat here so that it doesn't accumulate as much of the gunk, and then put some fat here. And then they built up some fat around my eye as well. And we do that at almost every procedure, because with facial paralysis, you do not have muscle tone to hold things in place, which means no matter what you do, even if you create a fix that works, it's not going to last over time because there's no muscle tone to hold it in place. So every time I have to have surgery on my face, they always will take fat from somewhere and they will implant it around my eye, around my cheek, in order to help reestablish a little bit of tone and just to put some bulk back in there, because it just fades away. And what you're seeing here with the little bit of smile that I have is because this muscle right here is actually my thigh muscle, which they have transferred, the gracilis muscle from my inner thigh, they transferred to my face so that I can close my lips and keep food and fluids in my mouth. So this is definitely not a simple process. I've had a number of surgeries over the years. This was surgery number 24. To try and just get my body working again. But the good thing is I am doing great in this last set of procedures. Looks like I'm going to have a working eye again soon when the swelling goes down in a couple of weeks, and then the stitches will come out. I should be good and back to better functionality. So huge thanks to the team in Southern California, Dr. Robert Levine and Dr. Joel Aronowitz, who are dedicating their time and their effort to help people like me to have improved quality of life and to be able to do little things that most people don't think about, like close your eye, smile, hold food and fluids in your mouth, chew, swallow. What seems little to you is huge to me. So grateful that I'm doing well. Yes, I'm exhausted, probably a little bit emotional still, but doing great. Recovery is going well, and I'm grateful for all of the love and support. Thank you, my friends.